Well, this great to be here. It's been an awesome couple days in Austin already. Kate, it's great to be sitting down with you. Excited to talk about Coinbase, about Web3, about crypto, about marketing, all the intersections of those things. I'm curious as we look out here, how many of you all have ever downloaded or used Coinbase, the Coinbase app?
Yes,
all right. Look at
Let's
that.
go Texas.
Love it. I should raise my hand too. I'm one of those people. I became crypto curious back in like 2017, 2018.
That's early, bro.
Yes, not early enough, but it's good. And Coinbase is my app of choice. I'm not just saying that. But so I'm curious, as we get into it, you have, I think, bring an interesting experience to Coinbase, right? For those who don't know, you spent over a decade at Meta, Facebook, eventually kind of overseeing the marketing for all of their consumer products. And I think that a lot of folks out here in marketing would look at that and say, that is a dream job, right? Like, it's hard to imagine a bigger brand, a bigger set of resources, right? But about a year and a half ago, you said, I see something at Coinbase, I want to go over there, there's something happening there that excites me and inspires me. What is it that you saw at Coinbase that lured you away from what many folks would think of as a dream job?
Yeah, so I think at the heart of it, it's about building and seeing another transformational opportunity, much like what I felt like I saw at Facebook in 2010 when I joined it was a couple years before the IPO. And at that time, Facebook was simply a blue website. You know, we didn't have even a mobile app. We didn't have any of the other brands that ultimately came to join the family, like Instagram or WhatsApp, which ultimately I was running marketing for. And, you know, fundamentally, it's different to run a business at scale and really watch that journey. So I think when I joined, Facebook had 500 million users, and by the time I left, we had billions of daily users across multiple apps and services, and really had seen the transformation of Facebook as kind of a frivolous website where college kids, posted photos of their lunch to a fundamentally transformational set of technologies across so many different industries. And so when I was approached by Coinbase, I also, was not a very crypto forward, especially as, by Valley standards person. But as I sort of started to understand more about what the truly transformational power of the tech was, I couldn't look away. Like, there was no way I was going to do anything else. It was the only job I interviewed for, and I think really the only thing that I thought would have the same ambition and transformational potential.
Yeah, no, I think that I can definitely understand that kind of drive, the power of building things, particularly at a precipice, where you think that you're at the beginning of going up a mountain. And so I think that you're kind of at perhaps another inflection point now when we think about the journey that crypto and Web3 is on, still very early days, I think. And so when I think most people think about Coinbase, they think about a cryptocurrency, transaction and management platform, right? And both consumer-facing, but also enterprise, but really focused on that type of a platform. But you all have actually just announced kind of a broadening of that and into what you call wallet as a service, right? And so, you've described the opportunity there as trying to help bring the benefits of Web3 into kind of, bringing other companies onto the blockchain and kind of more of a B2B world. Like, that's obviously a big, different part of the business, super exciting. What does that look like for you? What are the opportunities of wallet as a service?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we obviously are in a room with a lot of brand marketers, and so I don't need to tell you guys really about the transformations that are happening in the industry and the need for brands to establish direct connections with their customers, especially in a world where we're seeing many changes in how people consume media and advertising, especially younger generations of consumers. So we're seeing a lot of big brands experiment with Web3 tools and technology, whether that's NFTs or token gating or providing things that are called proof of attendance protocols, POAPs at various events, et cetera, et cetera. But what a lot of big brands have lacked is a really seamless, easy way to integrate this technology at scale. The tech is hard right now. It's hard for brands that want to offer Web3 experiences to their customers. And so that's really where Wallet as a Service comes in. It's a few lines of code that companies can work with without any deep cryptographic knowledge, deep engineering investment, et cetera. And they can do this in a way that actually integrates the wallet, which really is the passport to any Web3 experience. You need a wallet to be able to, send, store, receive any kind of Web3 enabled experience, an NFT, et cetera. And so what this allows brands to do is really integrate those experiences into their ecosystem. You don't need to download a separate wallet, and you can do it completely in the your brand ecosystem.
That's so exciting. I think that one of the things that I've been hearing about here, and I hear every time I talk to marketers, is around like the value and importance of building loyalty, about being able to work with your customers and providing and creating mechanisms for almost like brand ownership, right? Like you want your customers to feel like they are a meaningful part of what it is you do every day. And I think that one of the big opportunities around Web3 is creating more mechanisms for that, for brands to actually generate that kind of loyalty, to pull people into that community in like a meaningful way. And so like, are there specific types of use cases you think about, right? Like if you're someone, outside of the financial services world, in some other kind of brand, some other company, like what are the specific things that unlock, like as you think about the marketing funnel and the way you can engage with your customers?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think the one easy way to think about this is it's a new direct channel to your customers. So, for example, when Coinbase came to market with our first television commercial, it was sort of the infamous bouncing QR code that I'm sure many of you saw in the Super Bowl. And right there, I think is like a good illustration of what this type of technology can do. Immediately, we have a direct relationship and know in an opt-in way what literally millions of people are wanting to engage with our brand, and that actually enables us to have an ongoing relationship with the people that have opted in to take action. We also recently, for another example, launched a developer product called Base, and I won't get into the specifics with this audience, but at the high level, as part of that marketing plan, we had an open edition NFT mint, and we saw that I think approaching 500,000 people have minted that NFT, again, establishing a new direct relationship for Coinbase and, specifically our Base team with, hundreds of thousands of customers, and we can know, we can push them content when they come to Coinbase events. If, for example, we wanted to make use of that NFT to token gate and give them a VIP experience, we can do that, and that is for $0 of marketing spend. And that activation got, I think, over 500 million earned impressions on Twitter. Again, for no marketing, so no marketing dollars. So I just think this is very early days, but the promise for brands to actually have new direct ways to communicate that span online and offline realms and multiple channels, and even ultimately interoperable sort of experiences with other brands, either in their own portfolios or others, is hard to overstate. But we're early.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to delve in a little bit more to that in a minute. But since you brought it up, I do want to touch on that Super Bowl ad, right? That I'm sure everybody saw. And I think that you were telling me that was your first national ad. And speaking of dreams for a marketer, right? Your first national ad being arguably the most impactful and successful ad of last year's Super Bowl, right? I mean, almost broke the site, right? So many people were going to it.
It did break it. Definitely broke it.
So I mean, I'm curious, like, what was that like, right? Obviously, everybody, the Super Bowl ad is kind of the Oscars, the Super Bowl, and everything for marketers. And so what was it like to go through that process, to have an insanely successful ad, to deal with then the reality of just how much traffic it drove to your site, and like what was that process like? I think there's a lot of people who would kind of be curious.
Sure. I mean, at the highest level, listen, that was a big risk, and it was a big swing, and it was much more likely that was going to be a swing and a miss than a swing and a hit. So I think it's important to really recognize that, and fundamentally, being at a founder-led company where we can take those kinds of risks is fun. For me, it's a marketer's dream, right? Like, there are very few places, if you have that idea gets out the door, like, period. So I think that's one thing to recognize. Like, we were willing to take that kind of swing in our first national, very sort of public advertising, and it worked, and I'm thrilled that it worked, but I do think, it might not have worked. And
so risks are important. Taking risks.
I think creative risk is so important, and especially for new technology and a new category. If we're not taking the risk as a brand, like, who out there is gonna do it? So I think really being authentic and innovative and really trying to push that creative needle in everything we do it's a real aspiration for us, because it speaks to, frankly, the potential of the category and what we're trying to do in the world. And not everyone will be a hit like that, but I think if we push the needle and really stay focused on what we think the authentic benefit of the technology is, and really showing people that as opposed to talking to them about it, we hope we'll have more hits than misses.
Yeah, no, and I think it's particularly stark when you look at how a lot of other companies in that space, both at that Super Bowl and generally, have kind of leaned in more toward kind of celebrity endorsements, and they've gone in that direction, and you all seem to be much more kind of product-led and kind of leading with the brand and actually what you're doing and enabling in your marketing. Is that like an intentional decision about the creative strategy, about how you want to manifest your brand in the world? Like, how do you think about that, bringing that to life as far as your creative executions?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Coinbase is here for the long term. This is a very crypto native company. We've been in the game for 10 years already, through the highs and the lows, and it is fundamentally a builder's, tech-driven company, and that's really important to us, again, with this sort of principle of authenticity and how we're showing up to the world, and that is our bar in everything we do, and really not trying to rely on kind of anything else, borrowed sort of endorsements or anything like that. And there are times when those strategies really come into play. And so I think, but for us, it has been a very intentional decision, and to really show people the utility of this set of products, and hopefully inspire them about what it can do.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned it's been ups and downs. It's been a very dynamic 18 months in your space, right?
Very.
And so as a marketer, right, that presents its own set of challenges, right? So I'm curious, like, how does marketing in the Web3 space look different now and over the rest of this year than it did when you started, or it did a year ago, right? Like, how do you look out at the landscape, people's kind of understanding of that space, kind of its location in the culture? Like, what's different now? Have you updated your thinking, your approaches in different ways?
Well, listen, I mean, I think anyone that's been following the news knows that there's a lot of difference from today to the height of the bull market, and different, with the FTX collapse. Obviously, FTX was a huge advertiser in the United States, and so we've seen a lot of froth and excitement come out of the system, and I think from the Coinbase perspective, we think that's actually a good thing. It's a builder's market. It allows people to kind of get back to basics and really focus on the core tech and innovation, and we have more to build as a space. I think, for us specifically, we've always been focused on being the most trusted and compliant brand in the space, and I think that's a strategy that we're really doubling down on. And then also really, again, trying to help people see and grasp the utility. Now, how we did that in the height of the bull market with the QR code is going to be different than how we do that and what makes sense now, but the core strategy is the same.
Yeah. And so when you look at kind of the growth and expansion of your company, we obviously talked a little bit about the wallet as a service, but you also have, this was actually news to me, that you have a significant enterprise level business, right? You work with a lot of the biggest banks in the world as kind of their trusted partner to help them transact around crypto. And so when you think about balancing both that B2C marketing relationship, right? You have to go and educate and build funnels to get people. You still presumably want more users to have the app and to be transacting, but you also are working with enterprise level clients to convey the value of those products, and a lot of the folks here know that B2C marketing can be very different from B2B marketing. How do you think about kind of both tactically and strategically balancing both of those things?
Yeah, I mean, again, so yeah, and just to back up, for our core trading business, we do have a large institutional business. So we partner with BlackRock and many other marquee financial institutions to really help provide their customers the ability to buy, sell, transact with cryptocurrency in native environments where we're providing kind of back-end services to those companies. So again, they actually don't have to go build the very specialized sets of products and experiences that are required to custody large and trade, et cetera, large amounts of cryptocurrency. So for that business to work, these are highly regulated businesses where their entire strategies and reputations are built on trust. They need to be flawless there. And so that's really the standard we've held ourselves to. And frankly, why I'm excited about Wallet as a Service, because we have a lot of experience serving publicly traded enterprise businesses that have, a really high bar for brand safety. And so I think, I'm excited to move even more into serving corporates outside of financial services.
Yeah, and so to get a little bit more tactical, even, right? So what are the tools in your toolbox when you think about kind of either of those worlds? Are there specific partners, media channels that are productive for you when you're trying to really drive ROI across those different audiences, right?
Yeah, I mean, listen, for the consumer business right now, we have I would say, the most digitally savvy customers out there, right? The crypto native community are, deep into Discord and Reddit and Farcaster and many platforms that, maybe wide scale consumer messages are is not the vehicle for. So we really have to play across the whole funnel and frankly use more traditional linear TV buys to reach people who are curious about cryptocurrency or hearing about cryptocurrency, but are not deep into hosting their own Discords, for example. And then we also have to really in native ways be able to engage with very crypto native and very digitally savvy people. I mean, I think it's important to know that one in 5 Americans holds cryptocurrency. This is not a niche category anymore, while it is early. So in our media mix, we really have to span the gamut, and that's really, frankly, what we think other brands should be doing. Our point of view is they just need to start introducing Web3 tools. They're clearly doing the other stuff already.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. And so, one of the ways I think about that is at Grid, we're a news platform that is really focused on helping sophisticated audiences get the context they need to understand the complicated issues behind the headlines, right? And a lot of the articles that we write at the intersection of Web3, crypto, and other topics like the economy, about healthcare, about other global affairs, other things are very popular, right? People want to understand these issues when you go a little bit scratch the surface beyond just the people who are already super bought in, right? The folks who are hosting their own Discords. And so it definitely seems like there's a lot of kind of broader-based education to tie into other things, right? It's not just, there's a whole universe of people who aren't necessarily interested in crypto or Web3 on its own, right?
Exactly.
But it intersects so many other things in trying to make that relevant for things that are really meaningful to businesses, to customers, to folks who maybe don't think of themselves as tech people or as super cutting edge in financial services.
Yeah, I mean, I think our core insight as a team is we really need to help with the why crypto, not just how crypto. So, that's really where we're trying to focus with our highest level brand platform is, why should I care? I mean, what does this do for me in a way that's interesting and inspiring and actually encourages people to go down the funnel and learn more about the what is this thing. I think some crypto marketing has suffered a bit from we're so excited about the technology, let's go deep in explaining proof of stake blockchains to you, which I think is maybe putting the cart before the horse a little bit.
Yeah, I think that having the entry point have to be you either deeply understand or even care about like the underlying technology in some ways. It's just going to limit overall the market and the expansion. We had earlier in one of the last panels, we had somebody talk about in this context how most people, if you were to ask them, is the internet broken, probably think the internet is fine. Most people think that whatever experience they're having with a product or a service or a brand is probably fine. And so, the opportunity here is in evolving that sometimes in ways they don't even know that they want or need, but providing those tools for them. And so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we're in an eat your vegetables place, that's like the wrong place to be.
Yeah, for sure. Unless they're the vegetables that are like slow smoked here at some of these Texas barbecue joints, which have been amazing. But I want to circle back to one of the things we were talking about at the top, right? Which is like these different unlocks that you potentially have with this technology for marketers, right? And so I think a lot of the Web3 conversation as it's evolved over the last year has been around, like to your point, what are those specific use cases? You don't want to just be talking about, this is how proof of stake works, but like how is this meaningful for you? And so when you think about if you're just a marketer out here working for a CPG company or or a QSR company, like what are the potential opportunities that they should be thinking about that could be available with Web3, right? With different types of crypto, with the blockchain. How does that? And we talked a little bit about kind of engaging with audience. Is there like when you look at other types of industries, like what's the exciting things that people should be thinking about so that they're not left behind?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think we're early here. I think we're starting to see some big brands experiment in ways that are a little bit less like this is a toy and a little bit more like, oh, this could actually materially solve a problem for me as an enterprise and my customers. So I think people in that category or brands in that category are brands like Nike, who has launched .swoosh, which is a community where people are kind of claiming unique IDs and actually co-creating product together, have like are driving like deep loyalty in claiming new shoes and drops, et cetera. So I think Nike is really understanding this as like a fundamental engagement platform and a way to drive really a bespoke relationship and with their most loyal customers, and then also extend that customer base in a way that is not intermediated by a third party. So, in that case, Nike has the direct relationship. Nike understands when someone, with, this unique ID is going and interacting with their brand at any touch point. If it's a store, if it's, digital commerce, if it's at a festival where Nike is, has a presence, et cetera. So I think loyalty is a huge theme that you're going to see. Really, I think the most forward-thinking brand advertisers really begin to understand that this is a toolbox to drive, and to drive in a way that they directly own. Starbucks is another with their Odyssey program. Obviously, Starbucks has one of the most effective loyalty programs in the world. They've also been very early adopters with Web3 technology in kind of continuing to gamify and drive engagement, and extend that loyalty platform with Web3 tools. And I think we'll see a lot more of that. I also think as brand advertisers begin to do this, they're going to see a lot of opportunity for interoperability. So, you can kind of use your Coinbase NFT to access experiences with partner brands, et cetera, et cetera. And so I also think because of the digital and real life interplay that these mobile experiences will unlock, you're going to start to see some really interesting creative opportunities. And there's a lot of white space here. So I think honestly, this QR code ad that we did is just exemplifies that. Like, there's big white space here for people to try things that are new, creatively, and like really break the frame and get a ton of attention for that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that everybody here who's at South by obviously experiences every single day they're here the opportunities of brands being smart about kind of connecting digital and offline experiences in new ways, right? I mean, you see it here, you see it every time you walk down the street. And I think we all intuitively, being here, get the power of that, right? Like everyone who has a house here and an installation understands the power of that. And it does seem like we are just at the beginning of being able to kind of bring that to the next level and to actually feel like you have ownership of those experiences, ownership of those brands in ways that you can just activate. I also love kind of the way that it ties into data, right, that you were talking about, because I mean so much now of everything that we're focused on is about understanding the customers. Where are they? How do we look at them from a connections perspective, right? Yeah. And like tracking them in privacy compliant ways, of course, but like getting a much better, more holistic understanding of how people are actually interacting with not only your brand, but everything else in their life, right? And so I think that when I contemplate some of the possibilities of blockchain from like a marketing perspective 2, 5, beyond years, right? Tons of opportunity around being able to like have some of this data on the chain and being able to just get a fuller picture of how companies are understanding their customers and their potential customers.
And I think in a way that your customers want, right? It's a way for you to be able to interact directly with your customers and offer them a level of personalization without scraping data about them, without inferring data about them. They are telling you, and they know they're telling you, and I think that is just a fundamentally different. These are very privacy protective products, but that simultaneously allow levels of personalization that I think we all know drive our businesses forward.
For sure. And I mean, the idea of kind of, we love our programmatic ad partners. I think that they'll be the first ones to tell you that they're always trying to improve that experience for users, kind of harnessing the idea of making a more personalized experience. But yes, to your point, there's so much more that we can do to have more of an opt-in experience, to have something that is more substantive in that area that just like makes the interactions more meaningful.
Yeah, I mean, one way to think about it, and from my like Instagram days, so I was a power user of Instagram. I checked Instagram all the time. My husband would check Instagram every like 6 months, and there's no difference in my experience of Instagram and my husband's experience of Instagram. Now, Instagram's making a lot more money off of someone that's very highly engaged in the platform, looking at a lot of ads, et cetera, but the user experience with the brand is not different. What Web3 allows is for people that are power users of companies to actually get some of that value themselves. They're not just a third-party consumer, they're like a co-creator with the business, and I think that is just a fundamental model that is different and that is transformational.
Yeah, and I think the last question I'll kind of pull back up to 30,000 feet a little bit more is that a lot of folks here work at different sizes of companies, different parts of their career. You were saying that you started at Facebook when it was less than 1,000 people. You left when it was much bigger, over 80,000 people. Right now you're at Coinbase, somewhere in between. You've built hugely successful teams and been an executive in lots of different settings. How do you think about leading through growth? How is leadership change or evolve in big companies versus small companies? Any lessons for people to think about just being in such a dynamic set of organizations?
I think the lesson that I always just try to keep in mind is, are we like moving the ball down the field? It's so easy, I think, in tumultuous times, in companies at any level of scale, to just get distracted, and fundamentally, is what we're doing like benefiting the end consumer? Does someone see it? Like, does it matter? Is just really something that I always try to keep myself focused on, and really having that ambition to like make it great. And it's maybe not always going to be great, but I think keeping the bar high and really keeping the mentality that like you are earning people's time.
Hey, thank you very much. This was great.
Awesome. Give them a round. Remember, we want people wondering.